Hello and welcome to your Wednesday dose of wealth wisdom with me, Daniel Kennedy, your host. Today's topic, episode 43, the first one of the new year, 2020, is going to be why selling a property should be the last exit you consider, and why I feel that holding property and delaying that gratification and holding back on that lifestyle inflation will mean a better life in the long term, financially, and also time-wise and freedom. So there are a couple of strategies when involved in property, and some people, I think, do themselves a disservice when selling deals or selling property too soon and not allowing the power of inflation and market forces that drive up prices to eventually make you wealth. Because when you sell a property, you get no money from that deal anymore, and then you have to do something where you have to go and use your time, which is finite. Time is always finite, and you have to go back and find the next deal, find the next flip. So invest time in marketing, whether it's going to be land sourcing, deal sourcing, do the refurb, and then sell. Whereas if you hold property, build it well as you learn and go forth on your journey and refurb property, make sure that it's earning plenty of income. You should keep hold of it and try and keep it forever. Like, never have the option of exiting the deal, because you don't have a relationship with that property anymore. The relationship is parted ways and you never get more funds. So your net worth ultimately is the cash in your bank, and having cash in your bank isn't necessarily a good thing. So why some people might feel £200,000 now is better than £30,000 for the rest of your life, plus equity and capital appreciation, I don't think so. Because once you've built up a big enough portfolio to sustain yourself, you have the option to work, not the obligation. If you're constantly flipping and selling and like sourcing out deals, you never have the option of freedom. You have the obligation of work, because if you don't continue that activity, you're going to run out of money eventually, depending on your lifestyle and how much you spend on day-to-day expenses. Whereas if you have money coming in from your properties, you don't sell them if you've got a good deal, you just keep hold of the equity. I understand that equity isn't something that you can spend, but it certainly helps when you're trying to maybe invest in the next deal, increase, maybe get business loans, etc. And if the property can sustain it, why not? Especially if you've got a business, you can put things through the business if all the properties are held there. And I look at people who've been in property for generations, and I look at what their situation is like today. And the people that seem to flip, because it's going to happen, the recession happens, loads of people go pop, or they say when the tide goes out, we see who's not wearing shorts. That's quite a funny analogy that I like. The people that didn't hold have to start again, usually from nothing. Where if you're holding property and you're not developing and you're not sourcing, that's why I feel the build-to-rent model is much better in the long run, because then you get to hand down a business to your next generation, and then instead of just changing your life when you work hard this generation, you change the life of every single descendant. And I know the short-term thinking is, well, nobody did it for me. That's typically what people say. But the world is your oyster. As long as you just delay lifestyle inflation, like material goods, doesn't really mean anything. No one really respects you more if you have it. So why did I suddenly touch on that subject? Because if you're constantly reinvesting and you don't spend the money today, because that's money in the future, and you leave it in property, leave it in assets that beat inflation, you make money that way because you've got debt against the properties, and as inflation eats away at the debt remains the same, but the buying power of money decreases, and the government is never, ever, ever going to go into deflation because of how damaging the national public debt would be. So they're always keen to keep inflation at like 1 to 2%. And compounding over 30-40 years, that is an astounding saving with you doing absolutely nothing, without you paying any of the debt off. I don't know whether this is true, but I've talked to other people, and someone told me that Oxford Circus, the family that owns Oxford Circus, still has a loan on it, and it's like 30-40 pence because it's like hundreds of years ago when it was mortgaged. Who knows? Who knows? But still, that will happen if you keep hold of the debt and you allow inflation to eat away at the debt. Already, we have properties from 3-4 years ago that were valued at 430, now being valued at 500,000, and we've done nothing. All we've done is put rubber roofs on because the builder at the time didn't know what he was doing, so we had to rectify that. But literally done nothing but just refresh the properties, and I've sat on my fat ass and become £80,000 richer by allowing the property to appreciate. Obviously, it's never going to appreciate forever, but the population is going up in this country. So during the boom times, property prices go up. During the bear market, as I've recently learned, the property prices go down. But overall, since the Doomsday Book, on average, property prices have doubled every 7 to 10 years. That's not to say past performance is any indicator of future performance. We might go the way of Japan and never recover and just lose all property, but nothing risked, nothing gained, and we all know this. So I think you should keep property for as long as you possibly can, because once you lose the relationship, you then have to invest time in other things. And as I said at the beginning, time is finite. We don't have enough of it. We never will. It's always going to be in demand. And if you can keep hold of these properties, get them systemized as much so you don't have to spend too much time doing repairs, selling the rooms, making sure that everyone is happy and the tenants are paying rent, etc. And you can set yourself up for a really, really great life. And not only you set yourself up for like every generation after you. And that's my little 2 cents and my first podcast back on 2020. So next week we'll be touching on a few subjects that have been requested because there's been a bit of a break, but now we're back on the horse. This is just a quick one because it's quite late, but enjoy, and I hopefully see you soon.